Hi, and welcome to the Team 3242's PodCats podcast. I'm Riley, this is Nick, Jacob, and David, and we'll be talking about what's been going on in week 2. So Nick, how's the design been going?
It seems like we're probably 85% done with the design. We have to finish up our things that are powering our mechanisms, like either rotational things with the motors or possibly using actuators or even pneumatics. It's just we're deciding on those final power options, but the structure itself is there, and we're, like I said, like 85% done with all that stuff.
Cool. Was there any major changes or anything? Nothing too
At the beginning of the week, we had a little bit of an issue, and we decided to put our lift mechanism that's going to bring our intake up and down. It went from our chassis having a bunch of inside components to it moving all to the outside portions of our chassis, so that changed a major amount of stuff. So we are working on changing that all up, but luckily we didn't have anything built yet, so it all just changed in the CAD design, and from there it'll translate to our actual stuff that we're working on. David will talk about later.
Yeah, speaking of prototypes and everything, how's the build of those been going?
So the prototype chassis, we're pretty much finishing that up right now, and hopefully we'll be able to actually start building the actual robot soon.
Yeah, definitely working on that prototype. I know the build team's been working on, they started with laser cutting out the chassis plates to put all that together, and then from there it went to go ahead and put all the bearings and everything we would use for metal, but we translated to wood for now.
So Jacob, from the programming side of things, what have you been working on?
Programming, well, we got a lot of cool stuff this year, right? So, first of all, obviously we got the Pixie Cam. Haven't had Pixie Cam before. Pixie Cam is a little bit weird though when it comes to actually programming it, because it's made to be really user-friendly, but also very entry-level, which means we're a little bit limited as to what we can do with it, okay? So, normally when you do vision stuff, you use a combination of sort of shapes and colors. The Pixie, however, doesn't use shapes at all. It can't see shapes, it can only see colors, okay? And it can't tell if a color is in a certain shape. It just sees the color, and then it can, you train it to see a block of color, and then it figures out the relative size of that block, and you can use different calculations to figure out how far away it is, the angle that it's at, all that kind of stuff, right? Vinny and Big Rich are working on that mostly. That we put Vinny entirely in charge of that. He's delegating more and more to Big Rich, however he sees fit. Rashid and the rest of them, they've been working on autonomous stuff. We've got a whole autonomous framework planned out for this robot already. No actual code in there yet, just pseudocode and a bunch of stuff that we need to sort of challenge them and have them test and make sure they can actually do an autonomous and a drive program. We just recently gave them a task of taking last year's robot, and they're going to rewrite the whole code for that just so they can get all the movement stuff done. And then we could even, because it would be a great learning experience for them, and that kind of stuff you can't really mess up on it too much. It's just telling motors to spin in certain directions at the right times based on controllers or timers and autonomous. And then we can use that framework and that stuff that they've done for last year's robot and just copy and paste it, import it into this year's robot, because the drivetrain is exactly the same. With same mechanism wheels and same controller main, and then we will obviously have a lot to improve on with the extra controller stuff that we have.
Cool. There was also other stuff you were working on just recently, dealing with like new button systems and everything.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have another controller system this year. So we've always had the Xbox controller, which it's done us fairly well past years. But as we get more and more complicated with the stuff that we want to do, we need more and more buttons. So for this year, since we'll have the vision stuff, the vision side of it, we'll want all these different buttons that we can press at different times to engage in certain actions based on what the vision sees, right? So a big part is we're having this whole driver station being built, and that has all these buttons, and then Gabe, or whatever programmer is going to be up there during the actual match, is going to be using those buttons, and while Chris, or whatever driver is up there, uses the Xbox controller to actually do all the normal stuff, and then the special sort of things that we program the buttons to do, we'll do all that.
Nice. Going back to the Pixie Cam, you were talking about colors. I remember there was certain problems with colors.
Yeah, we had a couple issues with the Pixie Cam just because, like I said, it is pretty limited in what it can do. Especially we have the first generation Pixie Cam, which isn't quite as capable as the second generation. But we had some issues with sort of color gradients and the dynamic range within the camera itself. So, I mean, as you look around, you can see that the green on Nick's shirt is a different green than this, and a different green than the seats that we're all in, right? But to the Pixie Cam, it doesn't really, it doesn't have a great color gradient where it can see all these different colors. So if you showed it Nick's jacket, your shirt, this jacket, it would recognize them all as one color, unless you specifically change the settings so that it was really good at recognizing green in certain lighting conditions.
Yeah. Is lighting going to be a big factor? Like, if something's like too shadowy, does it have trouble?
Yeah, because shadows obviously can completely change the color of something. It's a completely different shade. It's literally shade. And then another issue is overexposure too, because some of the stuff that we have in the actual arena, they're really bright lights, you know, and certain stuff, especially the hatch, is a glossy, reflective material. So it'll come back as just a bright white rather than what we're actually looking for, yellow or orange.
Interesting.
So we gotta work those out, and we'll probably during the testing phase we'll need a lot of stuff to do with lighting and figuring out how that works, and then obviously tinkering with the Pixie more and more.
Going back to the prototypes and stuff, I think I do remember something about the intake prototype being designed. I don't think that's been brought up yet. I think that was being worked on.
Yeah, it's just now being started. We made a 2x4, like made out 2x2s, like little prototype that we use some VeinBot compliance wheels with, but that proved the proof of concept after we had done any CAD, and then now we're working on more of a substantial, like, actual product. So we started with laser cutting out the side pieces of it, and then from there the build personnel are gonna put bearings and the true rods and all that stuff into place to go ahead and test the actual mechanism, and then if everything checks off there, then we'll go ahead and transition to the aluminum plates. And hopefully we're gonna have CNC'd out, so they'll be lighter weight and they'll look pretty cool.
Looking into the rest of this week, is there any like major advancements you can see coming? You know, any things you really are trying to hit extra hard, trying to get done?
Just hopefully right now we got out of, since we're 85% done with the design, we just kind of ordered all of our major stuff that we don't have in stock. So hopefully if we get those things starting to roll in the mail, then we can start running with it. But that's it for this week when it comes to that stuff. But I know David's been working with building the prototypes. How's that going?
It's going really well. We're almost finished with the prototype, like I said previously. And
Also, I think we've got a lot of the obstacles and everything.
yeah,
Okay.
we're actually almost finished with that. We have the rocket done, and we're working on the cargo bay now. We're doing finishing touches on those.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's always good to be able to test stuff as early as possible.
Yeah, we've had to put the vision tape on there and stuff, so we can be working on that too.
Nice.
And y'all put y'all did all that with the laser cutter, so it was spot on.
It was all in the laser cutter, yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, interesting to see where we are at the end of week 3 or next time. But right now, everything's looking pretty good. Anything else?
I think that's it for our week 2 video. But it's a little brief this week, but that's just because we're in an interesting phase of trying to run with from our design to our actual product. But I'm sure these upcoming weeks will be jam-packed full of information.
Yeah. Cool. Well, be sure to check us out next time. We should also have a week 2 video that can also be checked out. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.